Donald Trump's upcoming visit to India will be packed with a welcome that has in many countries eluded him. A rally with a crowd of millions cheering him on, an election year love fest of sorts.
Well, I look forward to being with the people of India. We're going to have many millions.
The world's largest cricket stadium in the western Indian city of Ahmedabad. Trump's campaign will travel amid cheers from carefully picked and screened Modi loyalists and workers who will stand hours alongside a 22-kilometer stretch of road to give Trump a grand welcome. New cases of the COVID-19 coronavirus seem to be stabilizing in China, but appear to be spreading worldwide. And scientists say it could reach a tipping point where it's spreading faster than they can get a handle on it. Joining us now to talk more about this, to bring us up to date on concerns, Arthur Kaplan, professor of bioethics at New York University Langone Medical Center, founding director of the Division of Medical Ethics. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. Do you think this is, in fact, reaching a tipping point when it comes to spreading faster?
I'm sorry to say I don't agree that we've reached a tipping point that's positive. I think we're starting to see outbreaks in Iran, Italy, South Korea, maybe Japan, and some underreporting out of China that make me worry that we're going to see more spread of the virus. I think it seems to be pretty contagious. I think efforts to try and contain the virus have been haphazard, slapdash, not strong. You know, some places have sort of quarantined the boat. Other places, like Cambodia, said, come on ashore, everybody off. So I think we still got further months ahead of this turning into sort of a pandemic.
And how are they supposed to contain it if there are people without symptoms that could potentially be spreading it?
Yeah. So it's very difficult when people can be asymptomatic. And by the way, we also haven't established whether people are asymptomatic and don't develop the disease. That is, they simply remain infectious and they never show us signs of the disease. That can happen with the flu sometimes, for example. So I suspect containment is not the way to control this. It's a way to slow down the spread, hopefully buying some time until we either get a vaccine or some type of a antiviral drug. But I've never been a big believer that quarantine in an era of airplanes and boats and train travel and people going all over the world pretty quickly, that's really going to stop the spread of a disease.
So you think antivirals and vaccines are the way to go?
I think our best defense is really a couple of things. Keep pursuing in an open science sharing way vaccines and some type, hopefully, of therapy, some antiviral medicine that actually works well against this thing. It's a challenge. Remember, this is a kind of cold virus, and sadly, as we all know, we've never come up with a medicine for the common cold. So, tough virus, but if we can get everybody pulling together, all the pharmaceutical companies, universities, exchanging information, treating it as an unusual circumstance where they don't worry about trade secrets or publication priority, I think that's good. I think I'm seeing some of that. I think we have to have a good healthcare system.
Pero bueno, no vamos a ofender a los americanistas ni a los árbitros de fútbol. Yo prefiero hacer un pequeño concurso
and other diseases where a lot of our ICU people know how to protect themselves and have the equipment, so I think that's a plus. I think in some of these countries like rural China, they don't, and that's been a problem in terms of both spreading the disease but also dying from it. I think we got to be ready to wash our hands, maybe stay away from other people should we really get an outbreak in the U.S., a little less visit to the train station or the bus station or the airport or even maybe to the supermarket for a while, so we have to be prepared for some social isolation. That's the bad news. Good news is it's getting warmer and we're headed towards spring and summer. summer, at least in
A ver,
North
Mike,
America.
si tú fueras
That means you can go
maestro,
outside and not have to come into close contact in close quarters as much, which is why, by the way, the flu and other diseases like that die down every year in the summer.
But it could take months, obviously, for a vaccine or even a potential antiviral that would work for this. Isn't that pretty much? Is that an accurate statement?
It's accurate to say that it'll take months more to find something, test it, at least for safety, and a little bit of a signal with efficacy. That's going to take a little time. And then the reality is this. Ethically, we won't have a supply of the vaccine or the overnight. The treatment is going to take time to manufacture. And now we're talking about doses for the world, billions of doses. So there's going to be shortage, and we have to put plans in place to say who's going first if we got a vaccine, who's going first if we got a therapy. I think there's some argument that doctors and nurses, people who work in hospitals and keep them running have to go first. You're probably going to try and help kids if they're more prone, say babies, to trouble. And then we have to have a transparent debate about how we're going to do this. So even if somebody announces tomorrow, I've got a medicine that looks like it kills this virus, you're still months away from being able to make it in large amounts.
All right, that is Art Kaplan, professor of bioethics at New York University Langone Medical Center. Thank you for being with us. Australians have been taking time to remember all that was lost after devastating months-long bushfires killed more than 30 people, destroyed thousands of homes, and killed millions of animals and destroyed habitats. Shane Fitzsimmons is the New South Wales Fire Commissioner.
They died as heroes, selfless individuals paying the ultimate price while simply serving and protecting others in their local community and communities much further afield.
Noting those who died trying to contain the fires and assist with rescues, including American firefighters. He died in a helicopter crash fighting the fires as well as all the others who have suffered.
25 lives have been taken by this bushfire season. Each one of those is a story of grief, of profound loss and great sadness, of lives cut short and of families being changed forever.
Australia set up a national inquiry last week into the crisis that affected 3 in 4 Australians and prompted widespread criticism of the government for its sluggish response to the blazes. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the vast scale of the fires, which killed more than 30 people and destroyed thousands of homes, required a new response from the bushfire-prone nation. Well, as the world works to save millions of species from extinction, activists work to stop the enormous problem of poaching and wildlife trafficking on the African continent. Criminal Defense Attorney Jack Rice joins us from Nairobi with details about a project he's working on to help train prosecutors dealing with the big business of wildlife trade. Jack, thank you for taking the time. Tell us about it.
This really is an industry of sorts, because what we're really talking about is organized crime and terrorist organizations who are using this to fund their operations. So the idea is to reach in to make prosecutors better and more effective. And I use my former CIA training in some senses, but also my prosecution and defense training on the legal front to sort of bring it all together and hopefully make things a little better.
Now, are these Kenyan prosecutors, or are they from all over the
country? Del deshielo de los glaciares y la subida del nivel del mar, la batalla.
Kenyan, Tanzanian, but this time around, these are specifically Kenyan prosecutors working with the Kenyan Wildlife Service, and so that's part of what we're working on.
How does this tie in as far as organized crime and wildlife trafficking?
What's amazing is sometimes people are trying to think about who takes down rhinos, who takes down lions, who takes down elephants. Well, mostly it's done by large organizations, and organized crime really runs this. And when I say organized crime, I mean crime syndicates internationally, as well as terrorist organizations who then use this to fund their operations. Think of it like this. It's acquiring that pelts. It's not just about acquiring that rhino horn. It's about acquiring it and then shipping it out of the country and then distribution once it's out of the country. And so the idea is to be able to track all of those and then ultimately prosecute those in the most effective way.
And is the Kenyan government support of these prosecutors getting a better hands, or are they complicit and just not really focused on that right now?
Well, the answer is yes and no. I think there is this, absolutely, but think of it this way. If you look at the overall economy in just Kenya alone, it's somewhere between 15 and 20% of the entire economy has to do with tourism tied to wildlife. So in other words, this is a fundamental source of income for the country itself. It's just year after year after year. So you kill a rhino. The thing is you never get that back. It's now gone. Whereas if you have that rhino, you can make money off of people who want to see that rhino year after year after year after year, and their offspring, ideally. And so that's a part of it. But the problem is that the kinds of money we're talking about here can be so extreme, very country, that you can drive people into corruption, and that's exactly what happens. I mean, here's a simple example. If you think about the value of a rhino horn, it is the most valuable substance on the planet. It's more valuable than diamonds, gold, cocaine. $75,000 per kilo. So in other words, your average rhino horn, about 3 kilos, 225,000. You can get 5 rhino horns in a rucksack. That's $1 million.
But this is not an infinite commodity.
No, it's not. And so that's the intent here, is to try to bring in all of these organizations, prosecutors, I was talking about rangers and wardens, those to try to stop in the first place, but prosecute those who are dealing with it secondarily, to really help prop up the rule of law in East Africa and across the continent itself. Because remember, this is ripple effect. If you don't do this, what you then do is fund those various criminal elements, fund those terrorist organizations. And in fact, as an example, if you look at the situation involving Al-Shabaab when they came in and attacked that event in Nairobi, killing some 69 people back in 2013, that was funded specifically by Elephant Tunnel. That's how they paid for it. So this is about that, as well as it's about trying to keep these animals alive, trying to keep the environment propped up as best we can possibly do it.
It's Criminal Defense Attorney Jack Rice. We appreciate your taking the time to tell us about it. Thank you so much. You're listening to International Edition. We will be back in a minute.
On Our Voices, we're talking about the news and issues you're talking about, sharing stories of development and growth across Africa, around the world, and in our lives. Topics that inform, empower, and change the rules. It's time for Our Voices with me, Haiti Adams Fitzpatrick, and Hadiza Carey, and Ayan Bior, and Orion Itangi Saka. Join us on Facebook at VOA Our Voices. It's time for Our Voices.
VOA's International Edition continues. A recently planned redesign of the $20 bill would have put the image of famous abolitionist Harriet Tubman on the front, but that was shelved by the Trump administration. So New York illustrator Dina Cooper has decided to go ahead and start putting Tubman on as many 20s as she can find. Nina Venetia has the story narrated by Anna Rice. Brooklyn illustrator Dina Cooper is doing what the U.S. Treasury Department said it would do years ago. She's swapping the face of President Andrew Jackson for that of abolitionist Harriet Tubman on $20 bills. Well, she's stamping one on top of the other, rather.
I just kind of did a study on her face for these 6 different angles, and then I took these as reference, and that's how I made the final artwork.
The decision to stamp her own Harriet Tubman bills came to Cooper after the U.S. Treasury postponed its decision to print new $20 bills that would have Harriet Tubman's face printed on the front and moving the portrait of the U.S.'s 7th president.
Andrew Jackson is not a great figure in American history. He enacted the Indian Removal Act. So I think that we should definitely consider who we're enshrining on our currency.
The changes were supposed to happen in 2020 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment that allowed women to vote. Yet the initiative was tabled by the Trump administration until 2026. Dina Cooper decided not to wait. She was eager to see the first African-American woman portrayed on the national currency as soon as possible.
I grew up only 40 minutes away from where Harriet Tubman was enslaved. And so this is something that I've heard of for a long time. I've been hearing about her legacy and the things that she did for the Underground Railroad.
Cooper is not alone. A number of like-minded activists support her and use their own means and finances to create rebranded $20 bills. Today, there are more than 1,500 new banknotes in the country, in New York, Virginia, Michigan, and California.
Someone came up to us, actually, at a... It looks very shady. I want to know what you're doing, and they contributed 20s, too. I have 20. Can you do it?
Mm-hmm. Giving the $20 bill a new face is perfectly legal, Cooper says. As long as the special magnetic stripes are intact, the bill has to be accepted anywhere in the country. ATMs don't have a problem with them. Cooper says that after this experiment, she started